Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have Zev Asch on the line, and he's a growth coach and advisor at Zev Asch Small Business Coaching. Zev, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, Zev. So excited to get into today's topic and really to talk more about your growth consultancy and your coaching and how you're helping business owners really in their practices. But just to get us started, we'll start off with our Mission Matters Minute. So Zev, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Zev, what mission matters to you?
So I'm going to disrupt right off the start and say that I like to substitute the word mission with purpose. Uh, As somebody who's been in the military, missions usually have a start and an end. It either ends well or doesn't, but the purpose part is something I adopted in the past 5 to 7 years. And for me, the purpose of what I do is to change the lives of small business owners. And I don't take it lightly. I don't mean it to sound too grandiose. The work that I do in helping small business owners grow their companies affects them in terms of their own work-life balance. And something that's always been important to me when I was in the corporate world, it indirectly or directly affects their employees as well. So it's really life-changing, but strictly from a business success standpoint.
I'm in, Zev. I've done thousands of interviews, and this is the first one where, hey, purpose matters. And I agree, and I love it. And I love your angle and take. And I'd expect nothing less from you, Zev, than to start by disrupting in the beginning. So I'm excited to get into this topic really and talk about like even just what a disruptive approach to marketing means, because I know your angle and just kind of your takes slightly different than what I've heard in the past. But let's before we get into the marketing side of things and also into your business, because I want to know more about that. Let's go a little bit further back. So how did you get really on this path? You mentioned you're in the military, but how did you get on this path to get into marketing and really to helping small businesses?
Well, the military was part of my upbringing. I'm originally from Israel, and my dad owned a tiny little grocery store, corner grocery store in Tel Aviv, where if you walk one block in any direction, there was another grocery store. And
Yeah.
this is what I grew up with. He's always wanted me to come into the business, so to speak, and I didn't see anything exciting about having a grocery store. But I think the entrepreneurial bug was in me very early on in some creative, trying to make money when I was a kid. And it stayed with me throughout my corporate career. I always wanted to have my own company.
Yeah.
The only difference is, and I say it openly to anybody that asks, I didn't have the guts to do what a lot of entrepreneurs do, which is to quit a really, really good job and go on your own and put everything on credit cards. It was too scary for me. And so I didn't do it. But I got into it at the end of my corporate career when I walked away from a successful executive position, because that was the right time for me. My kids were done with college, and I jokingly say I didn't want my tombstone to say, "Here lies an idiot who always wanted to have his own company but never had the courage to do it." And so I walked away from a very, very nice position and started a business. And I'm sure you're going to ask me why and what it does. So I'm going to be quiet now.
So Zev, great story, number one. And I feel like there's a lot of other individuals out there that are considering going the entrepreneurial path, and maybe they are in a corporate position or in a role. And I mean, there's some differences here. I mean, you eventually did take that plunge, which isn't the easiest thing to do. I don't care what stage in your career. I remember when I left my my corporate career, so to speak. And I remember people thought I was like absolutely crazy. And maybe I was. I don't know. Looking back, I'm like, maybe I was just dumb enough to think I could do it. And I have no idea, but I wouldn't say it was some calculated risk that I took that was well thought out in retrospect, right? At the time, you think you know. But that being said, What kind of advice, decades and decades in business and working in businesses, what kind of advice would you give to some of those entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs that are considering going out on their own based on, your experience?
So interestingly, I was a marketing professor at Touro College's Graduate School of Business. And when the pandemic hit us and we all had to scramble, so what do we do now? One of the things that I mentioned internally to our leadership team is that what I foresaw was coming at the end of whatever it was that was going to hit us that none of us knew, but it was going to be bad. Massive unemployment. And what I foresaw was coming was what I call the tsunami of entrepreneurship. Many of those who are going to lose their jobs as a result of COVID, similar to what happened in the 2000 recessions, are not going to get their jobs back. One of the things that's happening now, which is surprising everyone, is that people are actually quitting. I think 48 million people resigned from their positions because of COVID on their own. But I sort of predicted that people are going to go the entrepreneurship way. My advice for anyone that contemplates it, interestingly, I was quite successful in the corporate world, had lots of connections, and I thought that the day I'm going to go out on my own, people will line up and just hire me. And as lawyers always like to say, nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
What I realized, and it was a rude awakening, and I funded my own ability to stay in business as I was building it by taking money out of my savings. What came next were 18 grueling months of realization that when you're on your own, it doesn't matter how many contacts you have, your networks, whatever success you've had, you really started from a completely blank slate.
Yeah.
Something when you leave the mothership of the corporate world and you go off on your own, completely different dynamics. So in hindsight, the fact that I didn't have the guts to do it when my kids were looking at colleges and I had to put them through college, it actually worked out because it would have been pretty scary. So my advice is, if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, then go test it out. Don't quit your job. If you're out of a job, by all means do it.
Yeah.
Understand that the grass is always greener on the other side. We live in an incredibly complex business world, and it's gotten worse with COVID. And so proceed with caution, and don't think that things on paper just happen in real life, because usually they don't.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. That people, when you go out and launch your own business, like you're right, people don't just line up and start saying, what do you have to sell me? That is such a rude awakening. As you're saying it, Zev, you're like taking me back like in time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Those were some painful days.
You want to know what the scariest question that everybody asks me, and I'm sure it happens to anybody that starts a business. The absolute frightening question that I was afraid of was, can I have a list of customers that I can call to ask about your performance? And since when you start, you don't have them. So what do you do? In my case, I was upfront and honest, that I'm just starting. You can go to my LinkedIn, there are 37 recommendations of people I worked with and clients and customers. And at some point, you're going to intuitively decide whether we're a good fit or not, and you take a chance. So this is all you can do.
The first book we published, Zev, I remember, and you're taking me back in time. Now, it's been 5 years. Last week was our 5-year anniversary. And the first book that we published, when we put it out there, I remember all I had was a deck. There was a PDF, and we bring together all these co-authors and things like this, and I'm like, and I didn't have a book yet, and so they're like, well, can you show me a book that you've published in the past, or can you? And I'm like, well, I've never done a book like this. I published my own, but this one's going to be much better. It's different. It's this, it's that. But all I had was a deck, 0 track record, 0 experience in publishing outside of what I'd done for myself, but not for others, right? And it was exactly what you said. It was that experience where you're like, wow. And, I guess my word though to people out there would be like, if you just tell the truth, like you did, like you said, well, hey, I'm just getting started. It's interesting because there's a certain type of person and a certain type of client that they want to support you. Like it's not easy, like to necessarily find them. It's not going to be every single person you talk to, but maybe some of your early clients and they want to help you, and they're business owners too. So it's like you leave you leave one profession, I would argue, or you called it the mothership of corporate America, but then you kind of join this other this other lifestyle of entrepreneurship, to where, you know, there's certain entrepreneurs out there that will support you just because they're entrepreneurs as well. Maybe they're a little further along than you on that journey, but they want to support, and they remember when they started and back in the day, so to speak.
Yeah. And look, the strategy when you do this, and I did the same thing, the best strategy is to work for free and just find clients and work with them and quickly accumulate an answer to, can I speak to some of your clients? Some people will object to this, say if they don't pay you anything, there's no commitment. You know what? In theory, it's correct, but when you start out, go out and prove your worth. And by the way, working with free clients was actually a way for me to actually get better at what I was doing. Because it was new. I mean, it's a different world when you work on your own than you work in a corporation, obviously.
So I brought up books, Zev, because you have a book out, and so how to get the most out of marketing. So I'm a big fan of books. Anybody that's been watching this show for a long time knows whether we're publishing the book or I don't care who publishes. I don't care if it's self-published. Like, I don't care how you get it done, but I'm a big fan of entrepreneurs publishing books and getting their message out there and really leaving that legacy. So first off, I have to ask, so what was the inspiration? So why a book?
So I'm going to say what, and being true and upfront, and this is live and unrehearsed. So just what you see is what you get. I did not write a book in order to sell you high-end, expensive online courses or anything else, which is the primary reason why people write books. It's a lead magnet, as we call it, to sell and upsell other products or services. It took me over 3 years to put the book together. And the reason I really wanted to publish it was because of decades of experience in observing what business owners, and I'll use business owners and entrepreneurs interchangeably, I guess it's the same. Some things that to me were consistently missteps, things that were overlooked by many entrepreneurs, including my clients in the 10 years I've been doing this, that are repetitive. And I like simplicity. Those are simple things that anybody can do and grow their business without spending a fortune on SEO, search engine optimization, on Google Ads, and anything else. There are some things that every business needs to do consistently. And most people, sometimes myself included, we chase the new shiny objects in marketing, or the new technology. You press a button, things going to happen. We call that in marketing spray and pray. It doesn't work. It's kind of like going back to basics. And so I wanted a roadmap for entrepreneurs who are increasingly frustrated with marketing, especially. It is an overwhelming subject. There are so many opportunities to do well, but equally to lose your shirt when you spend money on things that don't work. It's a saturated industry with lots of incompetence. And if you don't know who you're dealing with, you just look, entrepreneurs are one asset that is not a renewable resource. And that's our time. And so if you waste your time doing things that are counterproductive and cause you to lose money or not make money, that time is gone. It's not renewable. And great entrepreneurs are the ones that are the most efficient with their time and their money. So the book is really take a step back. There is a simple, easier way for you to grow your business on things that are not sophisticated at all.
What's the toughest part of writing the book? Like, tell us a little bit about the process. Like, what was the hardest part for you?
The title. So it took me 3 years to put the book together. It was sort of ready just when COVID hit, and I decided this wasn't the right time for a book about growing your business, not even knowing what was coming next. But the title is the one thing that I really, really struggled with, and it took over 3 months of back and forth in doing surveys, in reaching out to people. It was really my son, who is a brilliant marketing guy on its own, who was kicking my butt left and right, with not accepting what I try to compromise on
Yeah.
in terms of a title. But at the end of the day, and title is a science unto its own. There are books written about titles. They're like everything else. There are webinars and courses, and it is obviously it is the most important aspect of your book next to the cover design, especially if you talk about the Amazon universe.
Yeah.
So the cover, title, subtitle, and then the synopsis or the description. Those are the components that get books sold. And that's one thing I struggle with a lot. I started with, I called it marketing mistakes.
Yeah.
That was the runner up. And then literally not sleeping at night and realizing there's one thing I know about entrepreneurs. They don't like bad news and they don't like to be told what they're doing wrong, which I don't do as a coach.
Yeah.
I say, let's take what you do and make it better. But so to have a title that says marketing mistakes, I didn't want to project to people that are making mistakes. So it's more about overlooked, missed opportunities that are right in front of you. And so eventually I settled on something that was a little bit longer, but the benefit of reading the book is in the title. You get how to get the most out of marketing.
So at the risk of sounding like a self-interested publisher, there's entrepreneurs that want to get books written and that want to write books and they still haven't. So I remember thinking of, I think it was Les Brown. There's a couple of other guys that had different takes on this that said, the graveyard is the most, that's the richest place because that's where all the ideas are for the books that didn't get written, for the speeches that didn't get said, for the ideas that didn't get really immortalized and out there. So like creating a book, like you mentioned one benefit, which is as a lead magnet. So growing your business and using it to sell some other type of product, or service or something else. Like what other reasons would you say there are, for maybe getting that book written?
So I am a groupie, if we take the rock concert concept, but a follower of the person that I feel is the absolute marketing genius of our generation, and that's Seth Godin. I've come across Seth over 20 years ago in a book that he wrote that's still classic to today. It's called Purple Cow.
Yeah.
I followed him. I listened to everything he says. I read everything he wrote. I watch every YouTube. Here's what Seth not mission, but message is. Mm-hmm. If you have something to say, just go and say it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're going to get 75 likes or 3 likes or anything else. If you have something to say that could benefit someone, just go out and say it. The term Seth uses is ship it, right? Mm-hmm. You should ship your work. And so, the book wasn't written to sell. I don't have any fancy online courses. That wasn't it. It was really my way of helping business owners just take a step back, because I know the frustration level of marketing is increasingly bad. And for many good reasons. And so here's a way for you to grow a business by not missing some things that you should be doing, because instead you're chasing other things. So that for me, that was the reason to write the book. For many people, other than, look, and I know, books is not a gold mine opportunity to make money. It's a losing proposition, unless you are Malcolm Gladwell or Michael Lewis or Seth Godin. That's not the reason to write a book to make money. Is absolutely the worst reason to do it. Do it because it holds a value that can impact the reader in one way or another. And I have to say, I am getting emails from people who purchased my book that are telling me it does exactly what I wanted it to do. And it doesn't have to be huge. It's if you pick one thing out of the book and it completely opens your eyes and you say, you know what, we never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
That's good enough. It will impact your business.
Give me one takeaway. Obviously, it's a whole book. There's many, many takeaways, but I just want to give the audience a flavor for your writing and, what they can expect from picking up the book. So like, what's one takeaway or one lesson or tip from the book that you'd like to share?
The one thing that I've seen consistently with every single business, that's my tip. Yeah. We all need new customers. We all need revenue. And so we spend time, effort, and money on lead generation, on
Hmm.
Facebook, on Google, and everything. We constantly because we want something new.
Hmm.
While at the same time, right under our feet and inside your CRM or whatever database system you use, there is a group of customers that
Hmm.
already bought from you and are buying from you that hold the biggest potential for growth without you having to go spend money
Yeah.
acquiring leads on the outside, right? And that's one group that everybody neglects. The
Hmm.
biggest opportunity that every business has is in its existing client base. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the answer is send your customers an email every other day with a new coupon.
Hmm.
No, that will be destructive. They will shut you down, block you, spam, report you as spam, and you're done. No, one of the things that I found, and that's sort of like why this is in the book, I've traveled all over the world in my career, and very often with our sales reps and distributors. And I
Hmm.
would sit in a presentation that a salesman or saleswoman was doing,
Yeah.
and at some point I would interrupt and inject something about something else that our company was involved in, and the customer would say, "I had no idea you do that. You only thought you do A. I
Yeah.
I just bought B and C. I
Oh,
wish I'd known because I liked your company." So this is the biggest untapped potential from my experience, and it works all the time. Go back to your customers, ask them what else you can do for them. If you're a
yeah.
one product company, it's a different story. But most of us do multiple things or spin off of the main product or service. They're right there and they already like you and they buy from you. You
Yeah.
have to go through this grueling exercise of Google ad clicks and talking to strangers and people that don't know what they clicked on. And it's complicated. The sales cycle is incredibly grueling today. Look at your customer base, go back and ask them, what else can I do for you? And you'll be shocked.
Yeah, that I think it's a great advice, and as we're going into the new year, so for people that are watching this live or right now, we're recording this in December of 2022, but that's one of our big things. So we finally have at Mission Matters, we finally have a good size customer base, after 5 years in business, and we've never gone back and refresh the conversation on what other things we can help them regarding media and distribution, the things that we do well. But a lot of them have no idea. We haven't talked to them in possibly years since they've been on the show, and kind of updated them on some of the things we've done, or our podcast agency. It's a lot of things, and I'm sure they'd want to hear from us. Is really the cool thing. So I think that's amazing advice. And anybody that actually does that, Zev, I feel like if they just take that one thing from this interview or period and do that one thing, I don't see how you lose. Like, I don't see how you go back to all your customers, say how can you help them, and you get zero response, and you also get zero people or zero like value that you can add to their world. I just don't see that as a possibility. I just don't.
Look, and talking about disruption, we live in a world that it's becoming less and less. It's
Yeah.
more of an impersonal world as opposed to touchy feely. How I grew up and how I like to do business, and
Yeah.
so everything we do is impersonal. It's Facebook, it's phones, it's texting. I mean, my kids break up with their boyfriends or girlfriends by text. I mean, it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
So, and think about this as from our perspective as consumer. When was the last time you purchased something and the person that sold it to you called you the next day and said, "I just wanted to thank you for being a customer.
Yeah.
And by the way, is everything okay?" And I'm
Yeah.
not talking about these dumb surveys that
Yeah.
come in mail. I'm talking about pick up the phone and
Yeah.
call somebody. There's nothing more personal than hearing somebody's voice. And it
Yeah.
could be somebody from your customer service team, especially this time of year where a lot of companies are kind of slow because
Yeah.
people are in a Christmas mood.
Hmm.
Use your resources, take a customer list and call them and say, "Hi, I'm calling from, Adam Torres,
Yeah.
whatever. Just wanted to thank you for being a customer. We wish you great New Year, happy holidays, stay healthy." That's it.
Yeah.
No, nothing. And one of my clients who are actually doing it with said to me, "Can we offer them a coupon?" And I said, "No, please don't. It's not about selling. It's gratitude and
Yeah.
it's sincere. Just say thank you, right?
Yeah.
Say thank you.
Mm.
You know,
Well said.
car companies tried this 10 years ago. When you
Mhm.
went to get an oil change, you get a phone call and you say,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, the dealer called me." That
Yeah.
lasted about 5 minutes.
Wow.
And because for a lot of entrepreneurs, the quick question is, what am I going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Life isn't about getting things out of it. You just say thank you. If a customer
Mm.
buys from you, just say thank you. That's it. You don't
Yeah.
need anything more than that.
Yeah. Wow, what a great tip. This is great. I feel all in the holiday spirit right now. This is so good, Zev. I needed this, man. This is awesome.
I'll call
Um,
you after this and I'll say thank you. Whatever.
I'm in. No, you just now added to my to-dos. This is so important and I just want to do it. You're right. Like I have this feeling like I need to do this as well. So one of my favorite things about interviewing professionals like yourself and experts like yourself is we learn. Like I hope my audience is learning as well, but my team, when we watch the interviews, myself as I'm giving the interview, it's just great. I want to switch gears a bit, Zev. I want to talk more about what you're doing as a growth coach and consultant. So first, maybe tell us a little bit more about just your practice in general.
So everybody wants me or you to put a stamp on our forehead that says this is what you do and who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of like a hybrid of a coach, advisor, mentor. I don't use the word consultant because my image of consultants is not a positive one for my corporate days.
Mm.
The guys that came around, they did a lot of name dropping. You pay them
Yeah.
$5,000 and they leave you with a nice binder with a bunch of stuff and off they go.
Yeah.
So that's not what I do. I think the first question when I left corporate and decided to do this was, why does anybody need a coach? We
Yeah.
know we have coaches in sports, but why do you need one when you're in business? And the
Mhm.
simple answer is that first of all, we are not wired to be able to recognize objectively our own faults or the things that we miss.
Yeah.
We need someone who is outside our roller coaster world of entrepreneurship to be able
Mhm.
to look at things and provide advice. And by the way, what I do is not tell people what they do wrong. I never approach it that way. Say,
Yeah.
let's take what you have, improve it, and make it even better.
Mm.
So you can't do it alone. There's a famous TED talk with Bill Gates and Eric Schmidt from Google, was the CEO of
Mhm.
Google, and it starts with Bill Gates saying everybody needs a coach. And when you
Mm.
think about it, if athletes need coaches, why does Tiger Woods needs coach? Why do these baseball players need a hitting coach
Yeah.
or a catching coach or whatever that thing is? Because you can't see it for yourself. You have to
Mhm.
have somebody who's unbiased. And I've seen that in my corporate days, and I got to meet lots and lots of entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
It was interesting that entrepreneurs are very, very proud of
Mhm.
what they do and what they have. And with it come a good sense of defensive attitude
Mhm.
and sort of an inability to see things for what they are. And I don't blame them. I mean, if you risk everything, you start a business and everything's hanging on the line, I get that piece. But the smart ones, and one of my employers who I learned a lot from, uh,
Yeah.
said to me when he hired me, he said, "Look, I'm not the smartest guy in here. I surround myself with smart employees or smarter than me, and
Yeah.
let them do what I hired them to do. Oh no,
Yeah.
by the way, I also have a coach." And I looked at him and I said, "This is a multi-millionaire or $70 million company. You have a coach?" He said, "Absolutely." He said, "Well, what do they do?" And this is where that bug got into my head. So,
Yeah.
what does the coach do for you? I know about sports.
Mhm.
And he said to me, and I said, "Listen, the insights and the perspective that somebody from the outside brings in, as long as they're qualified, by the way, right? They need to have experience. Is a value added to business owners that,
Mhm.
that they can get. Look, we know that entrepreneurship is incredibly lonely, right?
Yeah.
If you come to work and and you leave work with a knot in your stomach, even if things go well, there's always challenges. And you stay up at night. You can't talk to your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. You can't talk to your family. That's the wrong people to talk
Mhm.
to. And even though you have employees that you might trust to do some work for you, as I was as a VP to my employer that I was with for 15 years, there-
Yeah.
there's still a distance between us, the line that they can never cross, right?
Mhm.
That trust can only go that far. And so if you can't talk to your employees and you can't talk to your family and you're all
Yeah.
alone, uh, someone that sits next to you and can sort of see things in an unbiased, objective way is incredibly powerful. And
Yeah.
so that's what I do. And my approach is to work with small business owners,
Hmm.
but our focus initially is on the growth aspect of the business.
Hmm.
The business is stuck. Definitely, there's we need to do some work. If the business is in trouble,
Hmm.
sure, I focus on that immediately. But even companies that do quite well,
Yeah.
the reason I get hired is, I don't know where to go from here. I think I've done everything I'm capable of doing. We're able to go to the next step, but I'm not quite sure what that is. So it's a
Yeah.
combination of stock, break even, or somebody who's doing well. And that's so I focus on the growth aspect. And to me,
Hmm.
growth is a combination of three, what I call the growth engines. It's marketing, sales, and customer service. Uh,
Yeah.
I look to make sure that those three are working in sync in every business. And if they do and they're efficient, then the company grows. Once the company grows, we shift our attention to corporate culture, leadership. Are the company systematized? Are the processes in place
Yeah.
to create consistent quality so that anybody that walks in from the outside can be handed a small little manual? So this is how we do things. Let me train you. And now you've got yourself a great brand with a good reputation.
What types of companies or businesses do you typically work with? So is it a certain industry, size of company, type of entrepreneur? I mean, just in general, give us a feel for what are some of the types of entrepreneurs that get the most value out of working with you and your team?
So if you look at my LinkedIn, it says industry agnostic. The one thing, and I'm a marketing guy, so that's
Mhm.
where the one thing I wanted to do differentiating myself was I didn't want to pigeonhole myself to a particular industry that I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time. So I spent almost 20 years in the medical device manufacturing world, in
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing of precision medical instrument, working with hospitals. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So 20 years. I can go out as a consultant and say I have 20 years experience in the medical industry.
Yeah.
I know all the major distributors and I can drop
Mhm.
names. No.
Mhm.
And by the way, because that's a great question, Adam, one of the
Mhm.
questions that people ask me, because doesn't matter to me what industry I work with.
Yeah.
How can you help me if you don't know the podcasting business, right?
Yeah.
My answer is that's exactly why I can help you. Because
Yep.
when I start to work with my clients, and they're all very diversified, from environmental cleanup to
Mhm.
home improvements to marketing focused companies to uh, teaching STEM to children in New York
Yeah.
City. It doesn't matter to me. On purpose, this was strategically my decision to be a generalist, because when I walk into an industry without the experience of the experts, I
Yeah.
can see things that they can't see. I'm not
Mm.
coming in with a way that said this is how we do things,
Yeah.
and that's what you should do. To me, that's not productive.
That's amazing, Zev. I get it, and when you said agnostic, it's one of my favorite things because E-Myth. That's one of the books I love, and
Yeah,
I
Michael Gerber.
recommend
Yeah.
many people read. But when you think about like exactly because you don't know that industry, like that other set of eyes, with also combined with your experience and other things, like it adds to having a whole different perspective. And time again, I mean, I don't come up with many ideas here. I feel like our best ideas come from our guests and from the people that, support our Mission Matters community overall. And many of them and the best ideas came from somebody that knows nothing about media or marketing. They just see something, they make a suggestion, and then that light bulb goes off and you're like, oh yeah, it should be that way.
So
So
here's a 40-second description of who I am. It's a famous story about a truck that got stuck under an overpass. And the fire engine came in, the cops came in, and people were coming down, and everybody's scratching their head. How we're going to get this truck to move? And this kid who lived next door came in, and he's sitting down the side. And a cop comes in, and he says, Mister, what's going on? He said, well, we're trying to get this truck, and we don't know how to get it out. And the kid looks and says, why don't you take the air out of the tires? Right? So I'm that kid. This is what I do for a living. I'm not always coming up with the most creative solution, but sometimes it's that everybody was looking at the truck,
yeah.
but he was thinking about taking the air out. So
Wow.
that's it.
Well said. So Zev, first off, it's been awesome having you on the show today, learning more about your book, learning more, of course, about your growth consultancy or your work as a growth coach, I should say. So what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for the business? What's next for the book promo? Like give us a feel for what's coming next.
Well, the book is on its own organically. I didn't do it. I didn't write the book in order to become a bestseller. Uh,
Yeah.
Somebody that I know really well, when I wrote the book, I asked this person, remain nameless, but very famous, how can I be a bestseller?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer he gave me was, why would you want to?
Wow.
And the answer, and you know what? It's true. I understand now because this is my second book, but I've immersed myself in self-publishing, in the whole science and
Mm-hmm.
industry of how to market books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't write it to become a bestseller, and I'm not going to spend the money to get to become a bestseller because you have to spend a lot of money. Some of it you can do intangibly. But what's next for the book? It's reverberating. I'm
Yeah.
getting more exposure. People are reaching out and they're saying that they absolutely they not enjoyed, but it did open their eyes.
Yeah.
Um, Once in a while, somebody will reach out and say, "I'd like to work with you," which is a good benefit of writing a book.
Yeah.
But the book I'm proud of, and the feedback I'm getting is great. For me personally, um, before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
we were working in a business environment that was getting increasingly complex.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Therefore, the frustration of business owners with marketing is continuous and it's getting worse. It's
Yeah.
really hard to decide, how do I get results? What do I spend my money on? What
Mm-hmm.
It is really, really complicated. COVID shows up, and COVID created what we call, I'm not calling it, it's actually Scott Galloway, somebody that I follow, is a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
And COVID created a condition of an accelerated future.
Mm.
Things that we knew were coming down the pike in the next 5 years or more, they're here today, right? I was a professor. I know that everybody in our university system was vehemently against anything that had to do with remote learning, online.
Yeah.
Absolutely did not want to think about it or talk about it, right?
Yeah.
That was universities. Companies were spending a fortune on
Mm.
real estate in New York City, where I'm not far from. I'm in New York.
Yeah.
A fortune on real estate for people to just hang out by the coffee station, take elevators.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount, and no one wanted to consider remote working, because if I can't see them, how do I know they're working? Well, guess
Yeah.
what? We're doing remote.
Mhm.
The medical industry, who was still
Telemedicine.
God, who wanted to see a doctor other than go see the doctor? Because if you don't see them and they don't look at you, it's not
Yeah.
medicine. Well, 90% of us were using telemedicine during COVID, and
Wow.
it's here to stay. So when we bring it back to what I do for a living, which is help companies grow,
Yeah.
I think we're in a tremendously disruptive environment.
Hmm.
And what I predicted, and I think it's already started.
Yeah.
Every coming out of COVID, whenever that happens, we had a little bit of a respite, but we're not done. Coming
Yeah.
out of COVID, everybody that lost revenue, companies that took it on the chin, uh,
Hmm.
they're going to have to play catch up. And
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a fist fight for survival out there.
Mhm.
And it's not the survival of the fittest. The fittest
Yeah.
piece in terms of business is making smart decision,
Mhm.
particularly with marketing, particularly with how you structure your business. If you have
Mhm.
remote employees, your corporate culture,
Mhm.
how do you compete today when everybody's out swinging because
Yeah.
they have to get a lot of revenue in? So
Yeah.
I'm excited to help my future clients and existing clients navigate this
Mhm.
uncharted territory of brutal, highly competitive business.
Mm.
Fine. Look, there's no right or wrong answers in marketing. You have to test,
Mhm.
A/B test and measure, find a silver lining. If something works, you spend more money and more
Yeah.
effort there. If it doesn't, but you can assume that we'll continue to be surprised.
Mm.
You have to be agile, and having a coach, somebody who's not immersed in the day-to-day roller
Mhm.
coaster, anxious, stressful life, can see things much clearly and guide the owner and the company to make better decision, which is really what it's about.
It's awesome. Well said, Zev. And if somebody is watching this and they want to learn more and to connect with you and your team, what's the best way for them to do that?
So all roads lead to the website. And if
Yeah.
you want to get to know me, it's there. It's actually Zev Asch, ZEVASCH.com. That's the website. It's not pretentious, but because it's about me, it's the easiest thing to do from a URL.
Yeah.
You can get to know me there. And as a bonus to anybody who's watching who don't want to spend $2.99 on my Kindle or $6.99 on the other book, there is an audio version of my book, and I have promo codes. Uh,
Yeah.
Anybody is interested in getting the book, being able to listen to the book, send me an email to Zev, Zev at zevash.com. Send me an email, ask for the promo code for the audio promo code, and I will send it to you. It's on all platforms except Audible and Amazon. The promo code won't work for Amazon, but it'll work for everything else. So I have them. If they're interested, I'm happy to give them away. I've got plenty.
Perfect. And we'll put all that information in the show notes. So if you're watching this and you just want to go head on over and click on the show notes, you can check out the website and everything else. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time with Mission Matters is all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and experts, and really having them share their value, why they do what they do, like what gets them fired up and motivated to get out of bed and go make a difference in the world every day and every morning. So if you're into content like that, and if that interests you, definitely hit the subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based entrepreneurs and executives coming on, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Zev, man, I took away so much from this interview. We'll talk offline after, but I'm going to tell you, you gave me a whole laundry list of things to do that I know will make a difference in our business and help us add more value out there to the marketplace and just to the world in general. So thank you for that. And really, it has been a pleasure having you on the show.
Same here. It was a lot of fun being live and unplugged. It's the way I like to do it. Perfect.